So Grant Morrison is probably one of comic books' greatest writers, I think. Yeah, I'd say he's one of the greatest comic book writers of all time. His stuff is just amazing. Every page you can really feel this creativity that he pours onto it. And he just understands a lot of characters, a lot of the voices he gives to them is just incredible. And I just want to give some recommends or recommended reads. So my first book definitely has to be Doom Patrol, which is from the 90s, which I believe was his peak in writing. But his Doom Patrol run, I believe that got him on the board, and it's just incredible. It really, it's goofy, but like it explores each of the different characters. It goes through their mental illness. It's a very much an outsider, a book about outsiders, and it wraps a lot of things. Well, even the ending of it is great. You have this one villain that gets built up, and then stuff happens, and it actually relates to the character. You got character defining moments. You got just random comic book stuff that he does, but it all makes sense once you read it. You can see all the symbolism and what message he's trying to portray, which I think is really good. And next to that, I gotta say Animal Man. That was a very meta book, which is what he does. So he's commenting on comic book industry trends, especially on how dark comic books were, and he was trying to add in a lot of light fun. Like Animal Man at the time, nobody cared about him, but now tons of runs come with him. He's in Justice League Dark. He's still there. It's like Grant Morrison just took this random character and he made him big. He also had Psycho Pirate and made him more popular than Psycho Pirates in the latest Crisis event. So yeah, that runs. You gotta read those two runs. Next, I would say is his Justice League is really good. If you like the cartoon, it's based off that, or the original one by what's his name, the Timverse one. Yeah, the defining voices. It doesn't have as much focus on the story like his original runs, but you're just gonna have a lot of fun with that book. It's the characters are written, the voices are so good, and they feel like proper people. I just really enjoyed that book. Next, I'll say is his new X-Men. I haven't read it, but I've heard tons of great things. I apparently some of the twists are a bit weird, but again, it's not one of his character or story focused stories. It's more just him having fun with these different characters, putting out some random concepts. So I read Final Crisis without having read anything else, but a lot of people recommend reading the 52 before. You can read Final Crisis by itself. It won't, not everything will make sense, but it'll still be a good story. I really liked it. It's a metaphor for depression, and you see a lot of Morrison stories being metaphors, which is good. He loves his own little messages. He doesn't always like to just be, you know, have nothing there to it. He definitely has tons of substance. Yeah. Now his next book, Multiversity, which is important if you want to understand the multiverse, especially the new 52 multiverse, as Justice Incarnate, who are really cool. It has it has different. They're all connected, but they're sort of their own stories, and there's a lot to the stories themselves. Originally, there was going to be something to do with the Metalverse, but Snyder did his own thing. Scott Snyder, obviously. Now Williamson is continuing on, so there is that story arc that isn't properly. Or it will continue on in the current Infinite Frontier book. But yeah, Multiversity is just great. It goes through different social areas. It has all these a lot of variety in stories, which is cool. You got like stories set in the 60s, you got stories set modern day, you got stories set in cartoons. It's pretty cool. I love Justice Incarnate. That's what you gotta read. It's basically like the Exiles, where you have multiple Earths, and yeah, and they're like gotta save the multiverse. But I think it's done better in this comic, in my opinion. So next one is his Green Lantern, which was pretty good. I read it, and I know a lot of people think you have to read all this other Green Lantern books. You don't really. It's a pretty fun book. You got Liam Sharp on art. It's very weird. Like at the time, I didn't really like his dialogue, but now I've come to appreciate it, and it's a fun story. Again, there's tons of metaphors, a lot to it, and yeah. Well, recently, Superman and Authority came out, and that was a really good book. I love Manchester Black. It was probably my favorite character. Although the only issue is that it was just them recruiting basically for most of the book. But you still had Enchantress, who was the standout in the book, in my opinion. And it gets continued on into the current Action Comics. So if you wanna pick that up, yeah. This is just a general overview of who I think, well, some Grant Morrison recommends. So comment below what you think you should read if you're a Grant Morrison fan.